I want to start by saying that I'm not the type of person who believes in ghosts. I'm an engineer. I think in systems and logic. If something happens, there's a reason for it. There's always a reason. I'm telling you this because what I'm about to describe, I still don't have a reason for it. And that terrifies me more than anything else. I moved into the Caldwell building 14 months ago. 6 floors, 32 units, built sometime in the 1940s. It's not a beautiful building. The hallways smell like old wood and something I could never quite identify. The elevator hasn't worked since before I moved in, and probably before that too, but the rent was low. In this city, low rent beats everything else. My apartment is on the 4th floor, Unit 4C, the man above me in 5C. His name, according to my landlord, is Mr. Aldrich Voss. I know this because on my 2nd week there, a package arrived for him and was left at my door by mistake. I brought it upstairs and knocked. He opened the door exactly 3 inches. I could see one eye. Gray, wet-looking, like an oyster. "Package," I said, holding it up. He took it without a word and closed the door. That was the only time I ever saw any part of him. The footsteps started my 3rd week there. I don't mean normal upstairs neighbor footsteps. I mean slow, deliberate, heavy footsteps that moved in patterns, back and forth, always the same path, always the same pace. I timed it once, 43 steps to cross the apartment, pause, 43 steps back, every night, starting at exactly 11 p.m. I told myself he was an insomniac. Maybe he had restless legs. Maybe he just liked pacing. I'm an engineer. I looked for the simplest explanation. But then I started noticing something else. He never left. I don't mean he rarely left. I mean in 14 months, I never once saw him leave. I work from home. I'm in my apartment most of the day. I hear everything that happens in this building. The woman in 4A who leaves every morning at 6:52 with her rolling suitcase. The couple in 4B who argue every Sunday. The teenager in 4D who plays guitar badly but enthusiastically. I know this building's rhythms better than I know my own heartbeat. And the door to 5C never opened. Not once. I brought this up to my landlord, Mr. Pellerin, a small Portuguese man who seemed permanently exhausted. "Mr. Voss," I said, "the man in 5C, does he ever come out?" Pellerin looked at me for a long moment. "He gets his groceries delivered," he said finally. "I know, but does he?" "He pays his rent on time," Pellerin said, as if that answered everything. Then he walked away. I started paying closer attention after that. The grocery deliveries happened every Tuesday, always the same delivery service, always left outside his door by a kid who never knocked. One Tuesday, I was in the hallway when the delivery came. The kid set the bags down and left without a word. I waited. The bag sat there for 4 hours. I went back to my apartment, came back 2 hours later. The bags were gone. He'd taken them in while I wasn't watching, or something had. It started 6 months into my stay. A smell, coming from above. Not garbage, not food gone bad. Something I can only describe as thick, like wet earth and copper and something sweeter underneath that I didn't want to identify. I knocked on 5C's door. Nothing. I knocked again. The footsteps, which had been going as usual, stopped. Complete silence from above. I stood there for 2 full minutes. Then the footsteps started again, as if nothing had happened. I called the landlord. He came up, sniffed the hallway, and said it was probably a dead mouse in the walls. He left a trap outside 5C's door. The next morning, the trap was gone. I don't know if Mr. Voss took it in with his groceries or something else. I'm an engineer, so I did what engineers do. I set up a small camera in the hallway, pointed at the stairwell and 5C's door. I told myself I'd review it every morning and finally get proof of what I already knew. That Mr. Voss was a normal, if eccentric recluse who had nothing wrong with him. I wanted to be reassured. I wanted the simplest explanation. The first 6 days of footage showed nothing unusual. On the 7th day at 3:17 a.m., the door to 5C opened. Something came out. I've watched this clip 47 times. I've enhanced it, adjusted the brightness, slowed it down frame by frame. I still don't know what I'm looking at. It was large. Too large to be a person, or at least to move the way a person moves. It came through the doorway sideways, the way you'd move a piece of furniture. It was pale, almost luminescent in the night vision. It went to the stairwell. It came back 11 minutes later, carrying something. I couldn't tell what. It went back inside. The door closed. At 11 p.m. that night, the footsteps started. Same pace, same pattern. 43 steps. Pause. 3 weeks ago, I found a letter slid under my door. No envelope, just a folded piece of paper. The handwriting was strange. The letters were perfectly formed, but somehow wrong, like someone had studied what handwriting should look like and replicated it without quite understanding why it looked that way. It said, "You have been watching. I have been watching longer. I do not wish you harm. I only ask that you stop recording the hallway. What I do between midnight and dawn is not for your eyes. I'm trying very hard to be a good neighbor. Please allow me to continue doing so." It was signed, A. Voss. I took down the camera that same day. I don't know why. I'm an engineer. I believe in evidence. I believe in documentation. But something about the phrasing, "I am trying very hard to be a good neighbor," filled me with a dread I can't explain, because it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a warning. Like whatever he was, whatever was living above me, restraining itself, choosing, deliberately every single day, not to do something it was capable of doing. And now, it knew I had been watching. I'm still in 4C. I know what you're thinking. But the rent is low, and I work from home, and moving is expensive. And honestly, the footsteps have become familiar to me now. 11 p.m., 43 steps. Pause. 43 steps back. There's something almost rhythmic about it. Almost comforting, the way a heartbeat is comforting. Most nights I fall asleep to the sound of Mr. Voss pacing above me. I try not to think about what he does between midnight and dawn. I try not to think about what he brought back from the stairwell that night. I try not to wonder if anyone has reported a missing person in this building or in this neighborhood. And I especially try not to think about what I noticed last week. The footsteps. They changed. Not the pace. Not the path. But for the first time in 14 months, they're no longer coming from directly above me. They're coming from right outside my door.